Hi everyone, welcome back. This is the beginning parenting course offered by the Leadership Society of Arizona. In the previous lesson, we learned or introduced you to the second principle of the no influence model, which is simplicity structured. We identified why it's so important to keep it simple for children, and also a new learning model, the no thinking model. I really hope you enjoyed it, and that you love the fact that you can learn quickly and still be able to decrease your stress because you can minimize the effort on the brain. How easy it is to learn. Now today, we really want to get into the second principle, which is the simplicity structured. We want to get into the application on how you can actually apply this into your parenting. This will be a quick lesson, but like all quick lessons, the real learning comes after the lesson, you implementing these ideas some way into your family, into raising your children. So I really hope you enjoy this. Now before we get into the application, I want to remind parents why children make what we call bad decisions. Why do they choose things that are not optimal, that will get them into trouble, that will not have an impact on their life that is in a positive manner? Why do they do this? We have to go back always to the water bottle. We need to remember the whole purpose of the simplicity structured is to be able to allow them to see into the future. Because when a child can't see into the future, that is when they make the bad mistakes. Because they don't know what they're doing. Oftentimes we think a child is purposely doing it. They're purposefully sleeping in. They purposefully stayed up all night last night playing video games or went out and partied with their friends and now they're tired and they can't wake up for school. They're purposely rebelling against us as the adults. They purposely don't turn in their homework. Sometimes we think it's so easy. You even had it done maybe. You could have just turned it in. But one of the things that parents don't realize is the only reason children do these things is because they don't know. They can't see into the future. Most things in life are not this simple. They might look this simple, but to a young, inexperienced child who's not fully developed, many times it's not this simple, and they can't see into the future. So the more simple we can make it, the more that they can see. And now you're going to find out as things get simple, children will make what we call better and better decisions. So let's get into this. There's 3 ideas I have for you. 3 ways that you can apply the simplicity structured into your home. The first way to implement this in your family would be the physical. What do I mean by the physical? I mean the accessibility of physical things and also of information. So let's start with physical things. It could be things that the child will need to do chores or to do different actions that they're going to have to do during the week or maybe during the weekend, something that they need. It could be it's their job to go and clean the bathrooms. For the child to know exactly where the cleaning materials are, for the child to know exactly where all the tools are for maybe cleaning the car, washing the car, whatever it might be. The more you can lay the physical items in your house out simply and make sure that every child knows where they are, this will increase the likelihood that things get done. It will increase the likelihood that the children will help out on certain things, because the children will know where everything is. I remember as a child, come to think of it, I really didn't know where very many things were in my house because I just didn't know. My parents never explained to me where things were, like maybe where the electricity box was or where the plumbing shutoff, the water shutoff valve was. There's a lot of things in the house that we take for granted as adults that we know, that as children they don't know. The more simple you can make it, the more you can help explain to them exactly what the layout is, the easier it is for the child to help out. physically around the house. Now the second thing, and more importantly, is the information. A lot of people don't realize that children get very confused very easily, and they're not very good at remembering things. In fact, as you saw in the last lesson, no human is very good at remembering things. I remember one time when we went into a school to help struggling youth, and one of the things we did was every week, once a week, we went in physically and actually accessed all the children's grades for them, with them. And we went through every single class asking them, why are you getting a bad grade? Is it because you don't have all the homework turned in? Is it because you're not getting something? I remember one student, I asked the student, do you have any history homework that you need to do that is not turned in yet? And they looked at me, they said, no, I completed everything, I know everything's good. So what we did, because I couldn't understand why they're getting a poor grade in their class still, we actually walked straight to the history teacher, and we went and asked the history teacher, hey, does the student have all their work turned in? And the history teacher looked at me and said, this student was in my class 1 hour ago. And I told them that they have 3 assignments due, and I told them where to get each assignment, how to fill it out, and to turn it back in. I can't understand why the student told you they have no homework. And this teacher is very frustrated. Now, take a week later. A week later, I started a business trip, and I was away, and I was about to present, and I was talking on the phone with my wife. Now, during this time, I actually was watching television too, but it was on mute, because if my wife knew I was actually watching television and talking to her at the same time, I'd be in trouble. But my wife was actually telling me what we're going to do over the weekend. And I completely spaced out because I got enthralled in this TV show. And by the time I came to, she already told me what our plans were, and I did not know what they were. So I spent actually a lot longer on this phone call trying to strategically ask questions and start conversations that would allow me to know what we were doing over the weekend without her knowing that I totally didn't listen to her and I had no clue what she was saying for the last 10 minutes. Now, after the phone call, my mind went back to this student the week before who told me they had no homework. And at first glimpse, someone would say, this student, they're rebellious, they don't listen very well, and they're just not smart. But then I thought my own situation, I realized I did the same thing. A lot of times we don't remember that our minds are not good at remembering things. And so when you're implementing this simplicity structure, this goes with finding information as well. If you tell your child one thing in the morning, they probably won't remember it by the time they get home from school. So if you can physically put things, now it can also be virtually on a cell phone. But if you can put reminders, things that will simplify this for your child so they don't have to remember in their brain, so that they can actually look at something and see it. Now, this is going to really help out. This is going to make their job so much easier. Getting the physical information, or getting the information to a physical place that they can always look at it, or a virtual place, this will really simplify their life. So let me give you some examples of what these things might be. It could be you're helping them out with school, getting their homework, working through with your child to make sure they understand exactly the process and where to find their homework on Google Classrooms. It could be that you write it down with them every night and put it somewhere. Whatever it might be. A lot of times children don't do things because they just forget. The other thing will be, maybe it could be the family schedule. I remember when I was young, I never knew when my father was home and when he was leaving. Why? Because nobody really had access to his schedule, although he traveled a lot, except my mom. And even then, I think sometimes she was just guessing. And so having a schedule somewhere for all the children to know where it was and always updated, it would have really helped me out, I think, in terms of knowing when the family was going to do something, when my dad was home, when he wasn't home, when they were expecting me to get something done, the more simple you can put this for a child, where they don't have to think about it, where they don't have to go through steps to get the information, the more likely they're going to be able to understand and make the right choices and do the right things at the right time. And so that's the physical. The second way that you can implement this is through your verbiage. And there's an example on the screen. Maybe the child's job is to do the laundry, or maybe you want them to do the laundry. And if you look at it, saying do the laundry is one thing. But when a child hears that, they have no clue. Even though it's small words, they have no clue what you mean. Because when you say do the laundry, they're going to do the easiest thing that they possibly can, which is just do the laundry. Maybe that means just wash it. They might not even realize that you mean to dry it, let alone to take it out of the dryer then, to fold it, to put it away, right? All of these are steps. All of these add more confusion to it. But if you lay it out for the child, that makes it easier. And remembering from the previous examples, the child won't remember. So when you tell them to do something, if they have to do a chore or they have to do something and you want them to do it the right way, to simplify the process by having a checklist or having instructions on the washer for them so that when they go there, they physically can see it, virtually can see it, but you explain it out to them very simply so they understand exactly what your expectations are. Now remember, this doesn't mean they're going to do it, but the chances of them doing it, if they want to and they're capable of doing it, goes up 100% if they see every step and they know exactly what your expectations are. Verbiage can also be simplified by making sure whenever you talk to them, again, this goes also with the individual-centered principle of pulling back. If ever you're talking too long, they're going to forget. It's going to be too much for them, which means part of simplifying verbiage is making it less. Before you talk to them, in your mind, identify what's the key point I want to take away from this conversation. What's the one major thing I want to relate to the child? And make sure your verbiage is short and sweet. Anything over 5 minutes, the child is not going to pay attention to. And if you got 5 minutes, you're lucky. Even with these videos, I'm hoping this will be less than 15 minutes, because if this goes to 20, I know you're not going to listen to all of it, right? So simplifying verbiage means also shortening it. Don't talk as much. And that's pretty simple, right? Okay. Now going to the third. The third is a very simple idea, which is routine response. If you can make sure that whenever you interact with your children, you always do it the same way, your response is always the same, that the routine of the family is always the same day in and day out. If every week at a certain time in the week you do something, maybe you get together as a family, maybe you go to the park, maybe you watch a TV show, the children will get used to routine. I know this especially because if you've ever raised a child when they're young, infants love routines. They go to bed the same time every night. They'll wake up in the morning. They eat at the same time. The more you keep them on the routine, the more stable they get. As soon as you start to interrupt that routine and you start confusing life for them, then they start to go crazy. They cry more, they need more, all sorts of stuff happen. This is the same way with adults. Even in my own life, I have a routine. I wake up around 4 to 5 a.m. I get ready, I go to the gym. After I go to the gym, I come home. I work, I go to my meetings, I do certain things. Now we're in the middle of coronavirus here. Now I have to stay home most of my day. And even though my routine is kind of similar, for a little while there, I got out of my routine because I had to start doing some things differently. And I started to realize that it affected my mood even. I didn't even realize it until my wife told me. Jacob, you haven't been nearly as happy lately. And I had to take a step back and say, why? And I realized it's because I was out of my routine and I was developing a new routine. Humans like repetitiveness. They like something that they do over and over again, something that doesn't surprise them. So the more you can get your family in a good routine, on the screen it says you eat at the same time. It could be when you spend time with your children. All sorts of things you can do to standardize to make sure you do it the same way every time. Also, I want to get into this response. When your children does something, the more you can keep your response upbeat, the more you can keep your response similar in, hey, no worries, or great job, whatever it might be, the more stable the child is going to feel in relaying things to you. When you have an outburst, when you respond differently to something, especially if it's a negative differently, the child is going to feel more unstable as they relay things to you. And so one of the things also that you can also simplify is your response. This is a much more difficult task because to always stay upbeat, to never get angry, to never have an outburst, to never be disappointed, this is a very difficult thing, right? And I realize that. But the more you can kind of keep a standard response to the different things that your child will bring to you, the easier it will be for your child. So going over these 3 things again, how you can actually implement the simplicity structure, which is verbage. I'm going out of order, right? Now it's confusing. No, it's the physical objects and information, keeping it someplace that's simple, easy to locate, easy to find. So physical. Verbage, keeping your conversation short, especially when you want to tell them something. Also making sure instructions are clear. And third is routine and response. Children like repetitiveness. They like something that's done the same way over and over again. That simplifies things. So those are the 3 ways to implement. Your job now this week is to find one thing you can do to make a more simplicity structured environment in your home. And I hope you have good luck in this. I hope you enjoy it. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video and you want to see more, press the thumbs up button below and subscribe to our channel. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments below and we'll answer them in future videos.